They say that love is the principal thing. I
Wow.
simply say music saved my life.
Wow.
It can reach it can reach those who are in turmoil. It soothes, it heals.
That's what's up. Hey, come talk with us. I say TW. That's what's up. Yeah, come talk with us. I say TW.
Hello, my people. Welcome back on Talk with Osasi. If you're new here, welcome. Are you returning? Welcome back. I see you. Guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell notification so you'll be the first to be notified whenever I upload a new video. And yes, do not forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. Today on Talk with Osasi, we have a legend in the house, the legendary. She is popularly known for her hit song, Hit and Run Lover. I am so humbled and honored to have her today on the show. I introduce to you the legendary Carol Gianni.
I'm a diva, baby. And you know what? You keep treating me like that, honey. Not only once, you've come to lie. Mess with my mind. Ooh, I refuse to buy. No, I'm a diva, baby.
Hello,
Hel-
everyone. Welcome. Darlings, I'm having a bad hair day. Hay fever. Diva hair mode. I decided to change things at the last minute. But welcome. And thank you ever so much for having me on your show. I am so proud of
I
you.
am so humbled to have you on Top with Osasi today. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
the
you.
show. Thank you. And thank you for the compliments. Thank you so much. Please, can you share with us a personal story of yourself?
Well, music was really accidental. Long story short, as you know, I am originally Nigerian and I come from a background where polygamy is practiced. My dad was involved in polygamy, and the stepmother's brother abused me. And when I reported this at a very young age, remember, abuse, be it sexual or whatever abuse, is still swept under the rug. There's still a stigma attached to it. My
Awful.
father was a chief pathologist in Canada at the time. Instead of protecting me, he kind of swept it under the rug, and I was sent to live with my brother-in-law and my sister at the time in Washington, D.C. When my brother-in-law's younger brother died in a car accident, he kind of lost the plot and then decided to move back to Nigeria. But instead of taking me with them, they sent me back to live with my father and the stepmother. And I still knew that what had happened to me was wrong, and I rebelled. And because of my rebellious way, my father really couldn't handle it. He just put me on a plane and sent me off to Montreal, Canada, and just left me there. So
My
that,
goodness.
yeah, that I was very young. That was the making of Carol Jhiani. The first people that I approached were the church, and they did not help me. I got into a cab, and I asked the cab driver to take me to the high street at the time, which was in Catherine High Street. And as you know, in those days, the
Mhm.
heydays, everything was open 24 hours. I went into Howard Johnson's cafe there and sat down having coffee. Then I noticed there was a piano bar next door. I went there, I was curious, and I spoke to the owners and I explained to them what had happened. Then they said to me, "Don't worry about it. We will put a roof over your head." This is a true story documented. And the rest is history. That was the making of Carol Jhiani. And from then on, I went on and I put myself through college, through university. That was where I met Joe Greca, who just happened to be at the university at the time.
Mhm.
Because there was I majored in drama. I was we were having a sort of like a drama rehearsal, and the studio musician was also involved with this drama
Mhm.
thing. So when Joe Greca came, he sort of kind of heard me. He was interested and gave me his card to come and see him.
Mhm.
This the making of Carol Gianni. And when I went to see Joe Greca at his office, he then uh, said to me that he had a friend, the late Glenn LaRusso, who at the time was the A&R man at Salsoul
Mhm.
Records. And he was the one that sent the classic Hit and Run Lover. That was the making of Carol Gianni. So this was really accidental. I'm grateful. If it wasn't
Yeah.
for the West, I wouldn't be who I am. Now imagine um, an Igbo Nigerian young lady went on to
Mm-hmm.
have four top 10 Billboard hits. I sort of, I had to survive. I had no choice. And for me, today, because of my survival, music remains my most
Mm-hmm.
powerful tool and platform. So that is really what happened. It was accidental, and I've never turned back. I'd love to get back to what I actually graduated from because I majored in drama, but music really has taken over. So this is my walk, and I still till today campaign for the injustices surrounding, be it sexual abuse or any form of abuse, because especially in Africa, there's still a stigma attached to that. It is swept under the rug, and a change must come. Indeed.
A change must come indeed.
Oh,
Wow,
it
Carol.
yeah, because I was underage, and the hypocrisy of the whole thing about Africa is that we have senators.
Mm-hmm.
We have this whole law where senators can then go and marry young children who are not even fit enough to get pregnant. For me, they're pedophiles. Really, that is what is known as a pedophile here in the West. So it is unacceptable. So I continue to campaign for this because it is so wrong. And this is what happened to me. So music really saved my life.
Wow, beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful. You have four top 10 Billboard hits,
Hmm.
and your classic in the 80s, Hit and Run Lover.
Hmm.
That is a very uplifting song. Can you please share with us the inspiration behind the
When
song?
you hear the way the songs were produced in those days, which is so different today, because the music today is reflecting the very sad times. The
Mhm.
classic, when you hear the cowbells in the intro of Hit and Run Lover, remember in those days they used to mix songs to like 8 minutes. The late Denny LaPaz, that just passed away, created that cowbell. When you hear the riffs to my classic, you know what's coming on. It's like their classic You'll Love. You know what's coming up. Thelma Houston's Don't Leave Me This Way. When you hear those first few seconds of riff, you know exactly what's coming on. This has gone on every single year since. Remember, I recorded that song originally in 1978. Um, it has been remixed every single year. We need to get back to the good old days, as I call it. The inspiration behind that was that in those days, the music was so uplifting. Everybody jumped up onto the speakers. I did it like we just didn't care. And we need to get back, to those days, bring back great
The
melody.
disco.
Yeah,
Yes.
because people want to escape the hardship and all the negativity and
Music
injustice.
is life.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is. So when you hear that cowbell, you know exactly what's coming. And the inspiration, I worked and I walked with giants in those days, and I've continued to appreciate that if it wasn't for that era, I wouldn't be who I am. But I think we should bring it back.
I agree with you. I agree with you. You are a disco queen.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Carol, what is your music philosophy?
That's a tough one. They say that love is the principal thing. I simply
Wow.
say music saved my life.
Wow.
It can reach it can reach those who are in turmoil. It soothes, it heals. I'll give you an example. I lost my teenage son a few years ago to a brain tumor. He was 17.
I'm so sorry to hear, Carol.
Thank you. And music
May
kept
his
me
soul rest
safe.
in perfect
Thank
peace.
you. He also, he used to moonwalk to the radiotherapy and having chemotherapy. He was also musical. He
Mhm.
played the guitar. And music kept me sane because even the first two times when he had his operation, while he was lying on the operation table, because he had a rare form of brain tumor called olfactory neuroblastoma, the very first operation took
Goodness.
8 hours. Yeah, to remove the mass. I made sure I went into the studio to record. That was how I could keep it together. While he was on the operating table, I was in the studio before recording, performing. When he came out of that, the mass, the tumor grew back. Second time, I did exactly the same thing. Music has kept me sane. It is the most therapeutic. That is what has kept me going, you know. I'm a strong woman because remember, once you bury a child, nothing else can move you. And the promise that I made to him was that I would continue to use music as a powerful platform to raise awareness about the injustices about the healthcare system, especially back in Africa, especially, I'm originally Nigerian. And this is what keeps me sane. Music remains the most powerful platform. That is it. It kept me sane. It is therapeutic. For example, every time you turn on the news, you would hear all sorts of negative things. For example, today with the whole Trump thing, I put my headphones on, I turn the music up, and I turn the music really loud. You drown out
Mm.
all the negativity. We have
Yeah.
there's so much talent in the world. There's so much talent in Africa, and
Mm-hmm,
as you
mm-hmm.
know, um, I'm also campaigning for the leaders to stop looting the wealth and embrace the citizens. Because for me, the black African man has the black African man in bondage. There's so much talent. Remember, even with the churches, it's not the preaching that brings the youth in, it's the music. And if I ever started a church, I would call it the musical church.
Wow.
So that is really what music means to me because it saved my life. It kept me sane. And remember, without the fans, without the DJs, without everybody, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Carol, I truly admire your strengths.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much.
I made a promise to my son that I would continue to fight, and one day we will beat the cancer that took him and all cancers. Because remember, the legend that just passed
Mm-hmm,
away.
mm-hmm.
There's so many people are dying, and while for those of us that remain and are still alive, we must remember those that walked before us to honor them and appreciate the gift of life. Because those of us that are still alive, we don't seem to understand how lucky
Yeah,
we are that we are still breathing.
sure.
So this is how I'm using music as a powerful platform to give back. Because
Beautiful.
that is the best thing that I can do.
Beautiful. What would you say are the lessons life has taught you in your career so far that has shaped you to the person, the
Yeah,
strong person that you are today?
yeah. Besides all the personal tragedies that I experienced, what I find is that it is important, and I say this to all the so-called A-list artists, especially in
Mm-hmm,
Africa. Remember, without the fans, we would not be who we are. I have
mm-hmm,
learned to be humble. We
mm-hmm,
are all God's children. We all deserve the very best. The
mm-hmm.
lesson it has taught me is that I am privileged to be in the position that I am. Therefore, I must set an example and set the standard. Because remember, okay, in the Western world, we have lots of support, but it isn't so in Africa. Africans are looking for who to follow, who to set the standard.
Yep.
And that is a lesson that I learned that I have to embrace our heritage to set the standard that we are not all swinging on trees and conducting ourselves like monkeys. The zoos here are better looked after than the citizens. So the lesson that I learned was that I am so lucky and I'm privileged. Therefore, I remain humble because if it wasn't for the citizens, I wouldn't be who I am. So I am thankful and I continue to give back because we all deserve the very best. And I wish we could see paradise in this lifetime.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. We are all privileged indeed, and life is indeed a gift.
It is. It is.
Can you please tell us about your current release, Diva? What was the creative process like?
Oh wow. There's so many things. Okay, producer Sunny. There's so many different projects that I'm involved in at the moment. The
Mm-hmm,
producer Sunny X,
mm-hmm,
Apostle of Music. He has worked with so many legends. He's a legend. He's worked with Chaka Khan, every major artist you could possibly think of. I have a release at the moment out called "I'm a Diva Baby." Right. So that it's a catchy title because even those who are not even diva are singing it and shouting, "I'm a diva, baby." So I have that. I re-recorded Bob Marley's "Waiting in Vain." There's an Afrobeat version by Soulshine because I needed to embrace the Afrobeat scene. It's becoming so big that even Billboard has given Afrobeat a section in the charts. I've done that. I also have a track out by Stardate called "Loving You." It's been picked up. So I have so many releases out at the moment. The original Fascinated that was recorded by Company B. I've also re-recorded that. That's coming out November time. So I'm continuously working and putting stuff out. But the classic also remains. Remember, it was recently picked up by Joe Vinyl Records in Italy. I went to Italy for a mini sort of 2-day tour. We did a radio promo. So the classic lives on. And again, this is hitting on Love of 2023. When you think that this was recorded in 1978, just that one song has kept me working. So I really am so lucky and grateful.
Beautiful, beautiful. The your new release is indeed a uplifting song. I really love the "I am diva, baby." You keep treating me
To
like
you,
that.
Tail Honey. Yeah, oh God, so true. Oh God, it is. We need to we just need to get up and dance again. And
Yes,
remember, we are
yes.
human beings and we deserve better. We have a beautiful world, but human beings are ruining it. Love ought to be the principal thing. Well, how do you explain a leader going about bombing hospitals where babies are just born? This is so wrong. It is so wrong. This is not how it was intended. So let the music. I also have another song that I worked on with Marco Zappola. It's called, we co-wrote it all together with VJ Kez. Let the music take control.
Hmm,
Let the music take. That's another stomper, uplifting one. I will forward that to you later on.
beautiful.
But yeah,
What is your advice for young artists today?
well, when I started my career, I was so remember, it was accidental. I was in awe of becoming the superstar and not really understanding the business side of things.
Mhm,
But I find that today it is important that the artists understand the business side of things, because this is not a hobby, this is a job. We're living in
mhm,
very difficult times. The artists must earn, they have to survive, it's a job. They must remain humble. But my biggest thing is, I learned from the very best, the Tina Turners, the Gladys Knight, the Patti LaBelles. You learn from the best, but then you take it away and you make it your own.
mhm,
Every time I get up on stage to perform or go into the recording studio to record, I
mhm.
notice that I learn something new and I become better. That's the greatest advice, but you must remain humble. Understand the business side of things. You know, continue to perfect your gift, and you
Yeah.
make it your own. You learn. You don't become envious, because a lot of people that wouldn't even collaborate with me due to envy, which is so wrong. Because if I sat back and I listened to the very best, the Tina Turner, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, and took it away and still made it my own, they should
Uh,
follow that same example, because these were legends. And remember, in the olden days, you had no choice. You had to work really hard. Today you have, especially in Africa, you have songs that are released where people are singing off key and singing late. You know,
mm,
and they're not on and nobody's correcting them, and they seem to think it's acceptable. No, it isn't. And this whole thing that we call African time, if people in this very difficult time are buying your tickets to
mhm,
go and see you perform, and you don't turn up, or you're turning up late, we need to stop this African time business.
mhm, mhm.
You know, so that's the greatest lesson. Respect the fans, because without the fans, we wouldn't be who we are. Respect the DJs. So
Yeah.
that's what I would tell the younger generation: perfect your gift. Become better. Never stop learning, because every time you step on stage, you discover something that you didn't even know that you could do, certain notes that you didn't even realize that you could hit. Even after billions of years of being in this industry, I've never stopped learning. I become better. My vocals became more powerful. So this is what I can tell the youth, the younger ones, understand the business side of things as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Carol.
Sure.
What are you currently working on? What should we be expecting from
Well, the
you?
plan, God, I'm working on so many things, you know. I'm also involved where we've started a radio show, Studio 54, with my co-host DJ Sean Wolford, Wolfie536 on Instagram, and we're showcasing the good old days because I feel that people are listening to radio. Let's feed the minds with positivity and uplifting. So I'm working on that. I will also start working on a radio where I'm talking about the history of Afrobeat because I feel as if a great injustice is done Afrobeat. People don't even understand the history. So I'm working on that. I love radio. You know, I'm working on so many things. You know, I'm working on also. Um, I will be heading to Nigeria before December to continue the promise that I made to my son to raise awareness because people are dying there unnecessarily. So that I'm involved in so many things. You know, remember, I would love to also embrace Nollywood, but my biggest headache is the soundtrack that is lacking. So I want to, you know, in fact, what I want to do is run for presidency of Nigeria. Can you imagine Carol Jhiani becoming president of Nigeria? Electricity is not a luxury; it's a necessity. I will be the greatest leader, female leader of all time. This is the plan. But perhaps we should start with let them make me minister of entertainment first. Then I will run for presidency. But you know, I have so many things going on. I just want the very best. Life is short. We have a beautiful world. Let's respect it because nature, if you've noticed, is now fighting back because that is not how the world was intended. The greed of man is ruining the world. So this is what I'm all about.
Oh, incredible, really. You're indeed a superwoman.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
Thank you too. Carol, we go on a quick short break and we will be right back. Guys, we go on a short break and we will be right back. Right back.
I was waiting for my life to change. He was going much too fast. When he's sitting on lover, you know you could, then he'll get out of town.
Hi, guys, welcome back. Hey, Carol, welcome back. Carol, what is your take on mental health?
You know, this is so dear to me because my mother was a midwife and she suffered from manic depression, schizophrenia. When I was 11, she sort of tried to stab me because I look like my dad. You know that whole Nigerian thing where you look like your dad.
My
But
goodness.
yeah, I was very lucky. This is how we ended up getting separated. And remember, I came to the UK to look for my mother. I found her up until her death. I looked after her up until her death. And the thing is, there is still we there's we shouldn't be closing. There's lack of uh, care workers. I don't understand how the misplaced priority. There's so many people walking the streets that shouldn't be walking the streets. There's a reason why people break down. You know, I have family members that are also suffering from manic depression, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, ADHD, and sometimes it is classed as criminal. No, it isn't. You know, we all deal with trauma in different ways. It is not just prescribing medication. Um, Therapy, counseling. You know, we all deal with things differently, but I find that there is not enough investment in that. They're closing down a lot of hospitals. We should be building more hospitals. It's not shopping centers that we need. We need more care workers. It's just misplaced priority. But this is very dear to my heart because mental health runs on both sides. It wasn't until my mother. Imagine she was a midwife. It wasn't until she set the house on fire that she was sectioned up until her death.
My
You know,
goodness.
and we find that today that so many mistakes are made. You know, in the end, the police are called out. The police who say that they're not supposed to deal with mental health, but it is not until it is too late that you have to call the police, because remember, the patient, when they're hallucinating or become delusional, they believe
Yeah.
of what is happening, you know, and the crisis team uh, continuously fail when they say that a patient has capacity. No, they don't, because remember, others, a lot of the relatives understand the patients better than any
Mm.
crisis team or police would. So I think a change, there should be a change in the law, you know. Um, they're closing down a lot of the facilities. You cannot treat certain mental health in the public because the public are vulnerable. The patients are vulnerable. Remember, when they become psychotic, they believe what they're seeing and what they're hearing. So we've got to tackle this. We need more hospitals than shopping centers. You know, let's get our acts together. Life, especially Africans would say health is wealth, but that doesn't seem to be that. You know, as we're doing this interview, the doctors are on a 48 hours strike. What is this nonsense about? You know, man prints money. We have enough facilities. We are the cause of our own problems. But regarding mental health, there are a lot of people walking the streets that shouldn't be walking the streets, that need counseling, that need extra care. Medication doesn't always solve everything. In fact, some of the medication causes more problems, you know. So I know a lot about this. That's another thing that I campaign for, you know. Mental health, blood pressure, diabetes, cancer. This all runs in my family. So, you know, I'm very passionate about all this, you know. So again, using music as a platform to raise awareness about all the injustices about that. You know, so many people need help, you know, and it's wrong to to arrest mental health patients when the
Mm.
crisis have failed, and then the next minute you find them in prison. That is not where they should be. In fact,
Mm.
it is it's more damaging,
Yeah.
you know, to detain a young person in prison. You know, they should. We need to tackle this before it even gets to that stage. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm so glad you asked me about that. But you know, mental health runs on both sides of my family, and I'm very passionate about it. You know, we need more facilities, more hospitals.
What
You know,
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. What are the things you do to stay mentally positive?
I don't allow. Okay, you can't help but you know every time you turn on the news, there's negative. It's always negative. But like I said, my son's death taught me the greatest lesson because if I can survive, if I survived holding my son while he took his last breath, I can survive anything. And because of the promise that I made to him, I continue to stand strong to make sure that I make a difference in this world before I pass myself. So this is what you know. When things get really difficult, I put the headphones on and I blast the music, just like the good old days. We all used to listen to music really loud. You know, I listen to music really loud to drown out all the nonsense in the world. So that is how I keep myself safe and remembering the promise, and also remembering the fact that I am still alive and breathing, and there are those who are still fighting. So this is what keeps me, you know, standing and strong.
Music is a
Oh,
powerful tool
oh
that
God, it
brings
is.
us all together. I really
Oh, it
love
is.
that.
It is. It
Thank
is.
you, Carol, for sharing this beautiful message today. Thank you. We are on the agree to disagree question.
Okay.
Forgive and forget. What is your take?
Um, I don't know about the forgetting part, but what I have to say is that you know, when we say forgive, the reason why you have to do that is because if you don't, it will haunt you. You are the only person that this thing will come back to
Mhm.
bite, because to harbor unforgiveness will eat you up alive.
Mm.
You can forgive, you let it go, but I never forget. You know, and once bitten, twice shy. If somebody has done me wrong, I never give them another opportunity to come and do more damage to me. This is how this is how I live my life. Once bitten, twice shy. Because you know, like TDJ said, never complain about what you tolerate. So you can forget. I forgive, but I move on. I don't entangle myself with those people. I have nothing to do with them. That is how you know. No, I don't forget. I don't forget.
Okay. What would be, thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want to touch on the forgive and forget aspect. I agree with you because when you forgive, you are actually you're freeing yourself from all those burden.
Mhm.
And in a way, you're also taking all the pain.
That's true. That's so true.
but you're freeing yourself. Thank you so much for sharing that, Carol.
That was so true. That was so true.
What is one advice for your 10-year-old self?
Life is a gift. Appreciate to be
Beautiful,
alive and be positive. Remain positive. Because
beautiful.
life is a gift.
It
You're alive.
is
Yeah,
beautiful.
that is it. Appreciate the gift of life and understand the power within you that you are still living. So therefore, we still have the very best ahead of us and an example to set. So that is it. I'm lucky and to be alive. While I'm alive, I give back and
Wow.
honor this earth.
Wow. We have come to the end of the show. Before we go, do you have any last words of advice or encouragement for your fans and supporters?
I do. I have to say this. This is very important. Um, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the world. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be who I am today without the producers that stood by me. The LGBT community were instrumental in giving me the hits that I have today. We live in a world where there's a lot of hypocrisy, whereby the same people who are preaching that thou shalt not kill are the ones at the moment, 25 African countries that are anti LGBT. You will see footages of human beings being burnt in a tire, and people, instead of doing something, they're standing there with their iPhones taking pictures. We are not God. We should not be the judge. Let love be the principal thing. And I want everybody to start practicing what they're preaching. Love is the principal thing. Nobody has the right to judge. I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for the LGBT community. We are all God's children.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
want a change. It's like racism. This has got to stop. We are all God's children. We all have the same blood, the same color. So this is what I'm going to say. We have a beautiful world. Let's appreciate it. Life is a gift. If you're a
That's
human being
sweet.
and you realize it, you ought to be grateful and do good and stop the hate. I hate all hate. So this is what I will leave everybody with. Let's stop judging. Let love be the principal thing.
Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you.
I say, God them kiss that me I say. Only one
You are
thing
not
love what
better
Christ.
than the next person,
Oh,
and
what's
you're not less
popping
than
my
the
So
next
we
brain?
person.
believe that
You
everyone has
show to
a
me,
mental health issue
darling.
or they are healing
I'm
their,
going to be
their
someone
inner
happy
health.
tomorrow. I don't do that.
It's really important to be self-aware of what, so that's how I prove of be like in what phase of life you are in. We need to be really understanding of our own situation.
Yes, we are the poorest in this country. So to me, everybody's sick. Mental health, everybody needs
You
a
have to be
therapy, and
happy
even
with
the
yourself.
therapy
You have to be
needs
happy with the life
therapists
you are
too.
living.
Do
You
not
have to be
think of
happy
being
with
enough.
what you have.
Don't even think of like it. Just
Now
go
give up
defend
loser.
yourself. Go for your offense.